Greetings, beloved, and welcome to this week's installment of Breaking Bread, where I provide my reasonings on various current events in society and culture. I am Father Jabred. I'm an Episcopal priest and the personality behind jabred.com. My reasoning for this week is about the George Zimmerman trial and the killing of Trayvon Martin. I mean, that's become must-see TV around here for the last few days and probably for the next couple weeks. And we see all kinds of things going on, and there's so many different angles to pursue and things to look at in this case. It makes it very interesting. But for some reason, one thing that I personally can't get past, and I bring it to you for your thoughts, is this idea of MMA, mixed martial arts, the injection of mixed martial arts fighting in this. I mean, it's not even being talked about much, but they use it for this talking about Trayvon Martin beating up George Zimmerman. They say that he was using this ground and pound technique, and he was on top of Zimmerman and beating his head into the pavement in an MMA style and a mixed martial arts style. Now, there's a whole bunch of questions about that, and maybe it's just me, but I think I might be going crazy, because they say that George Zimmerman was actually training in mixed martial arts for about 2 years, and that up until the time of the shooting, he had been going about 3 times a week. So, and we know that Trayvon Martin wasn't taking any sort of combat training, any sort of fighting styles. So at best, he might have been a great street fighter. I don't know. I grew up in the Virgin Islands. We know all the time of the little guys who just know how to throw those fists. You know, they know how to shoot the fire. Maybe Trayvon Martin is that kind of kid where he was just so good at fighting, so gifted with his hands, that as a street fighter with no training, he could overpower a man that was 40 pounds heavier than him and had training. Because I just can't seem to believe that at 40 pounds heavier than Trayvon Martin, having been training in MMA style fighting, he was completely powerless against a 17-year-old kid. And not even, let's say maybe he couldn't beat him up, but he couldn't even get Trayvon Martin off of him without shooting him. I don't know how that's possible. And some people will say that Zimmerman was training MMA. It was like a cardio style MMA, sort of like how people go to Tai Bo or kickboxing classes for exercise and not learning how to fight. Even if that was the case, it seems to me that if you've been going for 2 years, that you should know something, at least enough to push the boy off of you so that you can run away. But certainly, it's hard to believe that it was even just for cardiovascular workout purposes that he was training, when we look at the fact that he wanted to be a law enforcement officer. He wanted to be a police officer. And so one would be inclined to believe, at least I'm inclined to believe, and maybe I'm just nuts, but one would be inclined to believe that he was training MMA sort of in preparation for working on the police force and anticipating having to, wrestle down suspects and subdue them and put them into submission. But here's a man training in an art form that specializes in submission holds, and he knows nothing about putting someone into submission. I just find that incredibly hard to believe. So what do you think? Do you see it as possible that someone who's been training or MMA style fighting for over 2 years could then turn around and say that a boy 10 years younger than him and 40 pounds lighter than him would be able to beat him into such a stupor that the only option he had was to shoot and kill him? I mean, if we're to believe that, then seems to me somebody needs to go to that gym where George Zimmerman was training and demand a refund, because their MMA program must be awful, don't you think? Thank you for watching this week's installment of Breaking Bread. Again, I am Father Jabred, and I ask you to visit me online, www.jabred.com. You can follow me on Twitter, @ja_bread. And you can like me on Facebook, Jawbread Sight, all one word. And may the Lord Almighty bless you and keep you until peace and love.